Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to According to Wikipedia with Bang and Dang.
Ooh, coming off our spooktacular episode of Halloween last week.
Which we are recording this on Halloween this week.
Hey, look at that shit.
Right, spooky. Ooh, boo. Boo. We got the AFL, switching it up. We haven't done a sports topic in whatever the 16 episodes that we've done so far. AFL NFL merger we're talking today. We're reading today, I should say. Significant because although the agreement came in, I think it was June of 1966.
66, yeah.
Lyndon B. Johnson signed the bill that allowed them the merger on November 8th.
Why would a president sign?
Because he had to veto some law in order for them to go. But yeah, so it's kind of like an anniversary week, I guess. Obviously, this is coming out the week of November 8th. But yeah, before that, go check out our YouTube at youtube.com/bangdang. Don't know why I put the youtube.com there. Who says YouTube? Who says blah, blah, blah.com anyways?
Anyway, you could have went www.
Right, https : /
Right.
At Bang Dang Network. Give us a subscription. If you're listening on the old podcast, Spotify, Apple, give us a review.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Nike can't be infringing on copyrights.
No, I don't employ children.
Neither do they.
Allegedly.
They slave children. Allegedly. The NFL merger obviously was the merger of the two major professional American football leagues in the United States at the time. The National Football League, NFL, and the American Football League.
That's the only time
AFL.
where two leagues were so successful. USFL tried it.
And football, yeah.
Right.
But people forget that
Basketball.
NHL and AHL or USHL or whatever the hell it was merged.
Yeah, and then the ABA and NBA.
Right.
Or NBL. Basketball League.
Right. That was it. Nothing for baseball.
Oh.
Well, I guess if you want to say American League and NL merged to form the Major League Baseball. But,
Right, I would say. I wouldn't say that.
but they're still separate leagues.
Very
I guess
true.
AFL and NFL are still separate leagues because
Very true.
kept the same guys. Anyways, it paved the way for the combined league, which retained the National Football League name and logo. AFL got screwed. I would have preferred it to AFL.
All right.
To become the most popular sports league in the United States.
Wow.
I don't know about it at that time, but
Probably.
the merger was 66.
There was no other sports.
There was.
Baseball.
Right. Pastime of America.
Damn right.
Right. Merger was announced June 8th, 1966. Under the merger agreement, the leagues maintained separate regular season schedules for the next 4 seasons from 66 through 69 and then officially merged before the 70 season to form one league with 2 conferences. But they still played the Super Bowl.
They did. They did.
From 66 on.
Right. Fantastic. Well, following its inception in 1920, the NFL fended off several rival leagues.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Before 1960, its most important rival was the All-American Football Conference.
We are members of the All-American Football Conference.
We go from city near and far. They were called the AAFC, which began play in 1946. The AAFC differed from the NFL in several ways. Despite relatively strong backing at the league's inception, it's ultimately proved an unsustainable venture. The AAFC's most serious weakness resulted from its refusal to implement an initial draft. This caused a massive lack of competitive balance. And resulted, right, you can't get a draft. And it resulted in the league's strongest team, the old Cleveland Browns, and it dominated the league and becoming perennial champions every freaking year.
Well, due to the AAFC's poor financial situation, the league disbanded after the 1949 season.
Right. I mean, come on.
3 AAFC teams, the Browns, the San Francisco 49ers, and the original version of the Baltimore Colts,
Fantastic.
were absorbed into the NFL in 1950. The league was briefly known as the National American Football League during the offseason, but reverted to the traditional name of National Football League.
Oh, okay.
The Browns went on to shock NFL loyalists by dominating the older league and winning the championship in their very first NFL season.
Dang, see? Look at these guys.
Thus, proving themselves to be among the best professional football teams of the time. Almost like
Right.
the Kansas City
Right.
winning one of the first Super Bowls, like Super Bowl III or something, and then the Jets doing it against
Right.
Baltimore.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Right.
I don't think basketball at ABA, did the Nets do anything?
ABA. I want to say the first ABA
Sixers?
team to win the championship. I don't think the Sixers were ABA.
Yeah, they're
I don't
ABA.
think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Sixers? I don't think so.
You got like the Nuggets, Spurs. There was only like 4 teams: Nuggets, Spurs, Nets, and not somebody else. But I don't think any of them won a championship till later on. Till the Spurs, maybe.
Right?
That's the Nuggets, Net. Yeah, none of them did. Indiana Pacers, I think, were.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But they never won a championship either. So
Let's take a look at the 1950s.
they should have kept it. Well, that's a whole other episode.
Right.
Obviously, the Kentucky Colonels. Sorry.
Yeah, Kentucky Colonels. 1950s, take a look at that. After the NFL absorbed the AAFC, it had no other rival in United States leagues throughout the 1950s. The only other professional gridiron football leagues then in operation were in Canada. Them leagues that would merge to form the present-day Canadian Football League. That they did that in 1958.
See that CFL play the other day?
No.
The dude. Well, first of all, they allow their receivers to head start.
Right.
Second of all, they have a rule. Well, it's not a rule, but they have a thing that's not against the rules where if you catch you can catch the ball, purposely drop it and like kind of like tiptoe punt it, and that's considered a fumble, and then you can recover it yourself. So this dude did it, and you get a whole reset of downs. So the dude threw it to him. The dude intentionally dropped it and like kicked it like literally not even a half a yard, picked it up, and that was a whole new set of downs for him.
Oh, that's garbage.
Yeah. And everybody's like, this is trash.
Yeah, that's garbage. And plus their field's wider and longer.
It's crazy, right? Not longer, I don't think.
I think it's
125 yards.
125
No, because that's the NFL.
NFL's 120.
I think theirs is 125 long
Yeah.
Canadian.
Yeah.
And like what?
60 yards wide. I think it's only 40 yards in the NFL.
Something like that, right?
We'll figure it out. Okay.
Well, short of.
The Interprovincial Rugby Football Union was the forerunner of the CFL's East Division, received some attention from the United States football fans after it secured a broadcasting contract with NBC.
Good for them.
Wow.
NBC's been at like literally the forefront of every new league.
Right. This would be the AFL's future television partner.
Right, exactly.
During the 1950s, Eastern Canadian season started at around the same time as NFL. Canadian teams at this time typically play 2 games per week.
Damn.
So as to finish the season before the harsh Canadian winter set in.
I get it.
Right. I get it.
That's why their seasons are now in summertime, right?
I think, no, it starts a little bit before, like August, I think.
Well, they're playing now, so. Okay, right. It's my turn.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this arrangement allowed for NFL teams to travel north of the border for preseason contests with the CFL's Eastern clubs.
No shit.
Why don't they do that now?
Right, they should.
NFL teams won most of these contests, all of them by large score lines.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The other major Canadian league, the Western Interprovincial Football Union, which was the forerunner of the, you guessed it, CFL's West Division, was mostly ignored by the NFL, partly because its teams were regarded as inferior to those in Eastern Canada, but mainly because rail travel to Western Canada was infeasible for a preseason game.
Right.
Air travel remained uncommon.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
As a result, the Western Conference was already moving toward an earlier start to its season. All of the professional leagues, including the NFL, derive most of their revenue from ticket sales. No shit.
No shit. Jeez,
Well, I
what
don't
else?
know. Now it's concessions and it's,
Merch.
jersey sales and shit.
Merch, baby, merch. Although the NFL dominated the game financially, their advantage was modest by modern standards.
Win.
Canadian, huh?
Win.
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 The Canadian League enforced strict limits on the number of American players on their rosters.
Well, that is, imagine if American League did that.
Right. While the popularity of ice hockey in Canada limited the number of talented Canadian athletes
true.
that chose to play football.
That's true.
Wow. Therefore, NFL teams could retain their dominance on the field without needing to substantially outspend the old Canadian teams. In the absence of Players' Labor Union, the National Football League Players Association was founded in 1956, but was initially ineffective.
Kind of still ineffective, but.
Right. Or a competing United States League, there was little pressure to pay players high salaries. Absence of player union or competing U.S. League. Yeah, that's true.
Didn't they learn anything from the Black Sox?
Right. NFL team owners spent as little as possible on players to maximize their profit.
Didn't they learn anything from the Black Sox? The whole reason why they rigged the series and all that shit is because Comiskey was a fucking piece of shit owner?
Apparently not.
Wow. Well, let's take a look at emergence of the AFL.
Really?
1959, Lamar Hunt, son of Texas oil magnate H.L. Hunt, attempted to either gain ownership of the Chicago Cardinals with Bud Adams and move them to Dallas, or own an NFL expansion franchise in Dallas.
Really?
1959, the NFL only had 2 teams that were south of Washington, D.C. and west of Chicago, which were San Francisco 49ers. Holy shit.
And the Rams.
That's right. And the Los Angeles Rams. That's a hell of a travel.
Kidding.
The league, however, was not interested in expansion at the time.
Yeah.
Rebuffed in his attempts to gain at least part ownership in an NFL team, Hunt conceived the idea of a rival professional football league, the American Football League.
Oh, wow.
And what team did he found?
I think it was Kansas City. Wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was the Dallas.
Right. Dallas
Texans, yeah.
September 1959, Hunt was approached by the NFL about an expansion team in Dallas. But by then, Hunt was only interested.
He's like, no, you guys had your chance, motherfuckers.
He's like, no, I think I'm going to go with the American Football League.
Oh, national.
The new league had 6 franchises by August 1959 and 8 by the time of its first opening day in 1960. You had the Boston Patriots, the Buffalo Bills, New York Titans, New York City Titans,
Jets.
Yeah. Houston Oilers, the Denver Broncos, the Dallas Texans, and, of course, your Oakland Raiders.
Yes, sir.
And then they added on the L.A. Chargers.
And the L.A. Chargers.
While the L.A., New York, Oakland, Dallas teams shared media markets with NFL, which had the Rams, the Giants, and the Niners, and then the expansion Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, because people forget, Cowboys only came in like 1960.
1960.
Right.
The other 4 teams, Boston, Buffalo, Denver, and Houston, widened the nation's exposure to professional football by serving markets that had no NFL team.
Good for them, dude.
Fantastic.
All right. In the following years, the additional exposure was widened via the relocation of 2 of the original 8 franchises. The Chargers moved to San Diego in 1961. Well,
great.
I mean, they were in Los Angeles.
Right.
And the Texans to Kansas City in 1963, and they became the Kansas City
Texans.
Chiefs. Were they the Texans, or did they become the Chiefs right
for
away?
like a year.
And the addition of 2 expansion franchises, which were the Miami Dolphins and Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, 63 Dolphins came in and instant dominate.
Well, not instantly, but the small colleges and predominantly black colleges, a source mainly ignored by the NFL. The AFL, that's what,
Right.
The AFL signed such stars as Albert Dubenian from Bluffington College, Lionel Taylor from New Mexico Highlands, Tom Sestick from McNeese State. Hey,
McNeese.
Joe Dumars, baby.
Nice, man.
I don't give a shit. Charlie Dolar and Charlie Hannigan, Northwestern State of Louisiana, Abner Haynes, North Texas State, and a host of others. And others. From major colleges that signed talented players like LSU's Heisman Trophy winner. Oh, damn.
Billy Cannon. Nice.
Arkansas's Lance Allworth, Notre Dame's Daryl LaMonica, Kansas's John Haddle, and Alabama's Joe Namath, and many more.
All went to the AFL.
Oh,
huh?
Joe.
Oh, the old Jiggity Jets.
Damn, Joe Namath played on Alabama. I had no idea until just now.
Wow.
You would think,
Well,
somebody would know.
the AFL also signed players from the NFL that had given up. That the NFL had given up on. So-called NFL rejects, who turned out to be superstars that the NFL had misevaluated.
Yeah.
These included Jack Kemp, Bay Perilli, George Blanda.
Right.
Oh, George Blanda. He's a Raider, right?
Yep.
Ron McDowell, Art Powell, John Tracy, Don Maynard, and Len Dawson.
Lenny Dawson, huh?
Right. 1960, AFL's first year. A team signed half of the NFL's first-round draft choices.
Whoa. NFL's pissed.
Right. The AFL introduced many policies and rules to professional football, which NFL later adopted.
See, like, just the one with bigger money got it, and the ones that did it, like the ABA.
Right.
We would have no 3-point line. We would have a lot of this, none of the stuff that's happening right now.
Clock and all that good shit.
And without the XFL, number one, you guys see those Skyline cameras that are prevalent these last 25 years? XFL did that
You better
first.
thank Vince McMahon, baby.
Right.
These policies that the NFL adopted from the AFL are, at this time, a 14-game regular season schedule, which the NFL adopted in 1961, increased from 12 games. Exactly 1 year after AFL's inaugural.
They're like, damn, two more games?
Inaugural season, right.
2 more games equals
Money,
2 more
money.
games of revenue.
The CFL's Eastern and Western conferences had already been playing 14 and 16 game schedules, respectively, for several years.
Yeah.
The AAFC in 1940s also played 14 games. Then another one was player's last name on the jersey bag, which is adopted by the NFL in 1970. Took them a long time to do that.
Right.
Then the next one, a flashier, exciting style of play, as opposed to conservative style NFL game plans.
Run.
Right.
Run.
And then
Run.
You're right.
Run.
Oh, Terry Bradshaw came in and was like,
Well, I don't know about Terry.
and then also assisted by slightly
Dan
narrow.
Maynard, probably. He was quarterback for somebody, wasn't he?
Yeah. And then assisted by slightly narrow and longer ball, the Spalding J5V, which was easier to throw than an NFL ball, which is freaking humongous. If you guys ever had an original NFL ball, it was like a rugby ball.
Like a college ball.
Even bigger. The Duke from Wilson. That's what they called it. The NFL would continue to use its traditional Wilson game ball after the merger, though.
Of course.
They're like, your ball sucks. The introduction of the 2-point conversion to pro football, confirming to the college rule adopted in 1958 NCAA University Division football season.
Okay,
that's cool. AFL rule was dropped after its last season in 1959. It was later adopted by the NFL in 1994.
Damn, we didn't have 2-point conversions until 94 in the NFL?
Nope, sure didn't.
Well, that's horse cockle.
All right. Official time on the scoreboard clock.
No way.
Yeah, I remember when it first happened.
No way. And the college has been doing it for
Ever.
40 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Holy shit.
The official time on a scoreboard clock, as opposed to it being kept on field officials only.
Well, I mean, good.
Right.
Stupid.
This AFL rule was also dropped after the league's final season in 1969. NFL continued to use a starting pistol to signal the end of the quarters and games. That's why the very first Madden games, it was right. And it was later adopted in 1994. First Madden game came out in like 92.
That's trash, dude.
Wow, 1994? Damn, 80s football was like cool stuff, wasn't it? One network television broadcast package for league games. First with ABC from 1960 through 1964, and then with NBC. So you can have CBS, ABC, NBC, and Fox like you got today.
I mean, it's just like USFL and all those. They only have one partner.
And one last thing the NFL adopted from the AFL is that the sharing of gate and television revenues by home and visiting
Which is
teams.
something also that the ABA did.
They did, yeah.
Competition between the two leagues. Let's see about this. At first, the NFL ignored the AFL and its 8 teams, assuming the AFL would consist of players who could not earn a contract in the NFL, and that fans of professional football would not waste their time watching them when they could watch the NFL.
No, you were wrong.
Right. Well, you were wrong.
You were wrong.
No, Connor Sandos. You're wrong. Mama's right.
Oh, your mama's wrong.
Well, Mama's wrong again. Look, Mr. Coach Klein said it's all right. Anyways, the NFL also had the media advantage. For example, in the 1960s, Sports Illustrated's lead football writer was Tex Mall, who previously worked with NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle.
Oh, big sight.
When Rozelle was the general manager of the LA Rams, and Mall was the team's public relations director.
Oh, yeah.
Mall was certainly an NFL loyalist.
I bet he was.
And several sports reporters took his deprecatory columns about AFL as fact. So he's like saying NFL's inferior, the AFL's pieces of shit, these players are cast off.
Rejects.
Right.
People couldn't get drafted from college. Another example was the Dallas Cowboys general manager Tex Schramm, a close friend of Rozelle. Schramm hired Rozelle as the Rams GM back in the day. He was influential in NFL coverage by its national TV partner CBS, including the network's employment of former NFL players as game announcers, and the absence of the AFL scores and reports on the network.
Pieces of shit, dude.
Come on, man. Nevertheless, the AFL enjoyed one critical advantage over its established rival, which was that its owners, on average, were wealthier than their NFL counterparts.
That'll do it.
With a few notable exceptions, such as the notorious Harry Wismer in New York, Hunt had successfully recruited owners who not only had deep pockets, but more importantly, unlike earlier leagues, most AFL owners had the patience and willingness to absorb the inevitable financial losses of the fledgling league.
That's the key, man. Are you ready to lose literally millions upon millions of dollars for 4 years?
It can be rough for about 4 years, but after that, we're going to be playing for the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. And I bet you, even if Lamar Hunt was smart, he probably was like, this could eventually lead with a merger into the NFL or something.
Right. Or we could take over the NFL.
Or either or, right. Right. Therefore, in spite of the bad press and unlike the NFL's previous rivals, the AFL was able to survive and grow.
They did.
And begin to prosper in the mid-'60s after the relocation of the Chargers and Texans to non-NFL markets.
Ooh.
The sale of rebranding of the New York Titans to the Jets. And the Jets signing of University of Alabama quarterback, Joey Namath. And he got an unprecedented $427,000 contract in 1960 something, which was
never seen
a couple
before.
mil.
All right.
The league's financial survivor was further buoyed by NBC's $36 million 5-year contract to televise AFL games beginning in 1965.
Oh, shit.
Dude, they got paid bucks.
You ain't kidding.
Damn, dude, that's like what the XFL's getting now.
Man, as the rivalry between the leagues intensified, both leagues entered into a massive bidding war over the top college prospects.
I bet they did.
Paying huge amounts of money to unproven rookies in order to outbid each other for the best players coming out of college. Yeah.
But I'll guarantee that bit him in the ass more times than it worked out.
Oh, I'm sure. The bidding wars escalated in the mid-1960s with respective drafts held on the same day. Damn.
Oh,
shit.
Those motherfuckers did the Monday Night Wars.
You ain't getting. Because of the intense competition, teams often drafted players that they thought had a good chance of signing instead of selecting the best available players. I would do that too. And plus, you're talking to these kids. You're talking to these kids, like, where do you want to go?
Well, not only that, I see it because
USFL
even if
did
you
the same thing.
Even if you draft somebody and they're the best available player, doesn't guarantee they're going to sign with you.
Right.
So might as well draft the people that you already have a handshake deal on.
This is what the USFL did. With
well, they could be like who did it? Wasn't it like Steve Young signed a contract with both people? One of the players did.
It was John Elway.
Herschel Walker or something?
Jim Kelly or John Elway.
Herschel Walker did it, didn't he?
Was it Herschel
Didn't
Walker?
Herschel Walker sign with some USFL team and then sign with an NFL team too?
There was a couple.
And I think the NFL got voided. Herschel Walker was in the USFL first, wasn't he? I'm pretty sure.
Maybe.
Pretty sure. Well, for example of this, 1965 Heisman Trophy winner Mike Garrett, a running back from USC in Los Angeles, was expected to sign with an NFL team, so he was not taken in the 66 AFL draft until the 20th and final round by the Kansas City Chiefs. In the 66 NFL draft, he was taken by the Los Angeles Rams with the 18th overall selection.
Wow.
Garrett surprisingly shunned the NFL and signed with Kansas City. He helped lead them to an AFL title as a rookie.
Oh, shit.
Good for you, bud. The previous year, the Chiefs used their first-round pick on Gale Sayers, who we know would go on to the Bears.
Yeah.
By contrast, many NFL owners had comparatively little wealth outside the value of their respective franchises.
Right. They want to play for the Bears.
Some want to play for
the Bears.
proven teams, and some want to play for the money. I mean, obviously, you're going to get that.
The Bears or the Lions or...
Well, I don't know about the Lions in the 60s.
50s, they won 3 championships.
Yeah, but this is the 60s.
Right. NFL consistently outdrew the AFL at the gate, though, especially in the AFL's first few seasons, thus ensuring that the older leagues' franchises remain considerably more lucrative enterprises compared to the AFL rivals. Nevertheless, the NFL owners knew they did not have unlimited resources to wage and protracted bidding war with the AFL. Moreover, owners in both leagues feared that the reserve clause written into the standard players' contracts of both leagues would not survive a legal challenge. These fears proved well-founded, since after the merger, the upstart World Hockey Association, which, unlike the AFL, chose to challenge the reserve clause enforced by its established rival, ultimately prevailed in court.
Oh, wow. So they could have held on to players who they drafted. They could have held them in reserve and say NFL can't touch them.
Yeah.
But they didn't think it was fucking stood up in court. They didn't have lawyers.
WHA, baby. Look at these guys.
Wow. The National Football League teams had long adhered to the practice of drafting for and retaining the NFL rights to players who sign with the CFL and other leagues. Right. This policy ensured, for example, that if a Canadian Football League player developed into a star, only one particular NFL team would have the right to sign him.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, if you draft him, then you got the rights. It still goes on today.
Right.
This ensured that NFL teams did not become embroiled in costly bidding wars for top free agents.
There you go. Perfect.
Once the American League commenced operations, NFL teams extended this policy to cover them as well. And the AFL promptly reciprocated the arrangement.
Why not?
Of course, obviously.
Right. This arrangement soon evolved into a gentleman's agreement between the two U.S. leagues. Once a player signed with the team, be it from the AFL or NFL, teams in both leagues were expected to honor each other's player contracts in their entirety, including their respective reserve clauses, and not sign players who were under contract with teams in the rival league. This unwritten agreement was broken May 5th. Nope. Maybe.
Right.
In May of 1966.
Sometime in May.
Right. In May of 1966, when the NFL's New York Giants signed Pete Gogolek, the first professional soccer-style place kicker who had played out his option in 1965 with the AFL's Buffalo Bills.
Well, the NFL's breach of trust resulted in retaliation by the AFL.
Oh.
Oakland Raiders co-owner Al Davis took over as AFL commissioner in April 1966, and he stepped up the bidding war after the Gogolak transfer, signing notable NFL players, including John Brody, Mike Ditka, and Roman Gabriel to contracts with AFL teams.
No shit.
But after the merger agreement in June, they wound up staying in the older league.
Oh, jeez.
Damn, so Mike Ditka almost went to, wasn't even... Damn, Mike Ditka, huh? Both leagues spent a combined $7 million signing their 1966 draft picks. Not very much.
Right. Take a look at the old merger agreement. Contrary to common belief, it was not the AFL, but it was the NFL that initiated discussions
we need
for
to,
a merger.
Right.
Yeah. As it was fearful that Davis's take no prisoners tactics would seriously diminish the older league's profitability and or drastically reduce its talent base. That's probably what was about to happen. Tex Schramm, the general manager of NFL's Dallas Cowboys since 1960, he secretly contacted AFL owners, led by Lamar Hunt of Kansas City, and asked if they were interested in the merger. They're like, dude, do you want to come in?
Right, he went behind the commissioner's back and was like, dude, we need to do something about this. Our pockets are dwindling. Our sales are down.
It'll help both of us, bud.
Right.
The talks were conducted without the knowledge of Davis, the new AFL commissioner.
Well, that's shitty.
Wow. Yeah, because that guy, he was out for blood.
On the evening of June 8, 1966, the collaborators announced a merger agreement in New York. Dal Davis is like, what?
Right, he's like, what the hell?
Under the agreement, the two leagues would combine to form an expanded league with 24 teams to be increased to 26 by 1969 and to 28 by 1970 or soon thereafter.
Oh, okay.
The expansion commitment was included largely to mollify congressional opposition, especially from locals, which still lacked professional football.
Right.
Or locales. Not locals, locales,
right.
which the owners knew would follow any proposed merger.
Right.
In any case, the Atlanta Falcons and the Miami Dolphins were already established and set to start play for the 66 season before the merger was announced in June.
Fantastic.
This left both leagues with an odd number of teams. Thus, even before the merger agreement, it was seen as inevitable each league would add at least one more
They would have
to
to.
balance their schedules.
Right.
The teams added under the terms of the agreement were the New Orleans Saints in 1967 for the NFL and the Cincinnati Bengals in 68, the Seattle Seahawks and Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 76 as well.
Oh.
But those were added
After the
way after the merger, obviously.
Right.
So Bengals with the AFL, Saints, and NFL.
Right. That's fantastic. Good stuff there. Also, existing franchises would be retained. None of them would be moved outside of their metropolitan areas. The agreement also stipulated that no new franchises were to be placed by either league within the media markets of the other. Among other things, this particular clause of the agreement effectively ended the city of Milwaukee's pursuit of an expansion AFL team, following an unsuccessful effort to lure the Green Bay Packers to Milwaukee full-time, and providing an additional assurance to Congress that the promised expansion teams would be placed in markets without professional football. Yeah, you couldn't do that. Green Bay there. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Milwaukee.
Right. AFL indemnities would be paid to NFL teams which shared markets with AFL teams. Specifically, both New York teams and the 49ers. Oh, the New York Giants would receive payments. What?
Whoa.
From the Jets, and the 49ers would get money from the Raiders.
Whoa.
Why does the AFL have to pay both NFL teams?
Right.
The shared markets issue was part of earlier informal merger talks held as early as 1964. Negotiations which broke down when the NFL insisted on the Jets and Raiders being relocated. The Jets to Memphis and the Raiders to Portland. The Portland Raiders.
Wow.
The Memphis Jets.
Wow.
Wow. Both leagues would hold a common draft of college players, effectively ended the bidding war between the two leagues, obviously. The first such draft occurred in mid-March 1967.
Fantastic.
That's bullshit. Mm-hmm. NFL's like, you got to pay us money. I guess. I mean, maybe it was like precedent. Giants were there first.
Right, and then you want to bring the
49ers were
Jets
there
in?
first.
Yeah, okay. I mean, the leagues would maintain separate regular season schedules through 1969, though some preseason games during time featured AFL and NFL matchups, which it should. The leagues also agreed to play an annual AFL-NFL World Championship game.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the first Super Bowl was in 69.
Yeah, matching the championship teams of each league beginning of January 1967. The game that would eventually become known as the Super Bowl. Two leagues would officially merge in 1970 to form one league with two conferences. The merged league would be known as the National Football League. The history and the records of all AFL would be incorporated into the older league,
I would assume.
while the AFL name and logo were to be officially retired. The AFC's pre-2009 logos were largely based on the old AFL logo. It was, the AFC, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The AFL would abolish the office of AFL commissioner immediately and recognize the NFL commissioner as the overall chief executive of professional football.
He's a master.
Wow. This arrangement, which was in keeping with the provision of the NFL's constitution dated from 1941, when the title of commissioner was introduced in football. Also, they introduced it.
All right.
So they're like, well, we made it, so obviously our guy's going to be it.
Right.
That sought to invest the NFL's chief executive with a similar level of authority that exercised by the commissioner of baseball. formally ended the AFL's 6-year run as an independent league.
Damn.
However, the AFL was permitted to retain rule differences such as 2-point conversion for the remainder of its existence.
Oh.
One of the reasons the full merger was delayed until after the 69 season was that this coincided with the expiration of the AFL's contract with Spalding. So they had to keep their ball until then.
Okay.
They couldn't just take their ball and go home.
Right. NFL Films. They would start recording game footage for the AFL starting in 1968 under a new established AFL Films division, which was simply the regular NFL Films crew wearing separate jackets to appease AFL rules. Following this agreement, American Football League owners created the office of AFL President with a mandate to pumpy monkey babies, with a mandate to administer the league day-to-day business in a semi-autonomous manner. Much like the way the constituent
do it.
Right. Much like the way the constituent leagues of the Major League Baseball operated at this very
They
time.
pretty much still do, though. Right?
Owners had hoped Davis would continue to serve in both in this very role, but Davis, already furious with the owners of both leagues for negotiating a merger without consulting him, he flatly refused to consider serving as a subordinate to Pete Rozelle.
Good for him. Well, after Davis resigned as AFL commissioner July 25th, 1966, Milt Woodard, who was assistant commissioner under the original commissioner Joe Foss and Davis, was appointed to serve as president of the AFL.
Look at that.
Although Pete Rozelle had not initiated the merger negotiations, he quickly endorsed the agreement and remained in his post as NFL commissioner.
Of course he did.
Although he was not formally invested with any new titles, Rozelle was often referred to as the football commissioner or commissioner of football in the media during the 4 years following the merger.
I mean, it makes sense. Pre-existing office of NFL president continued effectively unchanged following the very agreement. Then occupied by Cleveland Browns owner Art Modell, NFL presidency was, both before and after the merger, essentially an honorary title that operated in a manner similar to the way in which the Queen of England.
Right.
It's similar in a way in which the
King
league,
of England.
right? Similar in a way in which the league presidencies of MLB operate in the 21st century. Yeah. Implementation of the merger depended on the passage of law by the 89th United States Congress, exempting the merged league from antitrust law sanctions.
That's so stupid.
That's what it was.
When NFL Commissioner Rozelle and other professional football executives appeared before the Congress's subcommittee on antitrust, which was chaired by New York Representative Emmanuel Seller, 3 points were repeatedly made. Rozelle promised that if the merger was allowed, no existing professional football franchise of either league would be moved from any city as a result.
Oh.
The combined league would eventually expand to 28 teams as stipulated in the agreement. Stadiums seated in less than 50,000 were declared to be inadequate for professional football's needs, thus compelling teams in stadiums with capacities under that to expand.
Oh, wow.
Most notably, the expansion of the Denver Broncos Mile High Stadium in 1968.
Sweet.
Or they were to move to newer, larger homes. Most notably, the Chicago Bears moved from Wrigley Field to Soldier Field in 1971.
Fantastic.
And the opening of new stadiums for the Patriots, Schaefer Stadium in 1971. Kansas City went to Arrowhead in 1972. The Bills went to Rich Stadium in 1973, and the Vikings went to Metropolitan Stadium. Well, they stayed there. The only sub 50,000 capacity stadium after the merger. Oh, so they got to stay there, huh? Until the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome opened in 82, which is now a whole new stadium for the Vikings.
Right. Good for these guys. It was this stadium issue that prevented Seattle and Tampa Bay from receiving their expansion teams until 1976.
And to build one, if you build it, they will come, but not until 1976.
Right. Both cities were recruiting the Bills and Patriots to relocate to their cities in defiance of Rozelle's promise. Should they not be able to build a compliant stadium in their home market?
Well, I mean, it would have been a pass, I would assume.
And only after these stadiums were built and relocation of existing teams ruled out that the league could issue expansion teams to Seattle and Tampa Bay. Since the 1970s, the league had only played occasionally in a sub-5,000-seat stadiums. Exceptions include the 1998 NFL season when the Tennessee Oilers played one season at 40,550-seat Vanderbilt Stadium. And also from 2017 to 2019 when the Chargers returned to L.A. and temporarily moved into the 27,000-seat Dignity Health Sports Park, known as the StubHub Center, before 2019 until SoFi Stadium opened in 2020. Dang, 27,000 seat, dude.
It's terrible.
Damn Chargers.
That's terrible. They couldn't even fill it, though. With their own fans, anyways. It was all the whole. It still is.
They
Even
still
in SoFi,
can't
dude.
know,
They
right?
can't. That's all the other teams. Fans. October, Congress passed a new law to permit the merger to proceed. The terms of the merger called for the NFL and AFL to add one each team prior to the 70 season. Louisiana Representative Hale Boggs and Senator Russell Long were instrumental in passage of the new law, and in return, Rozelle approved creation of the expansion New Orleans Saints.
All right.
less than 1 month after the bill was signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson on November 8th, 1966, I believe.
Boo.
The 10th and final AFL franchise was awarded to former Cleveland Browns owner and coach Paul Brown, downstate in Cincinnati.
Look at that.
Yeah, Paul Brown, they fired him.
Yeah, and he went to Cincy.
He's like, I'll go to Cincinnati and do the same color scheme pretty much.
Pretty much. Kind of.
Brown and orange.
Right.
That's what they originally were. And it's called Paul Brown Stadium. Brown had been seeking a way back into the NFL after being forced out of the Browns organization by Modell.
And look at Modell. Screwed
He's like, bye, I'm going to fucking Baltimore.
Yeah, he wanted to all along.
Isn't that crazy? Baltimore got screwed when they up and left in the middle of the night to go to Indianapolis. And then Browns get screwed to go to Baltimore. So Baltimore's like, yay, oh, yay. And then Cleveland's like, yay, but we'll get our team back in 96 and they'll never be the same.
Right. Brown had not been a supporter of the AFL prior to the merge announcement, but quickly realized the AFL was probably his only viable path back into the ONFL. After the older leagues awarded its 16th franchise in New Orleans, he's like, shit. Also, Cincinnati.
Maybe I can get a franchise.
Right. Also, Cincinnati is not going to have a 50,000 seat stadium ready, which is Riverfront Stadium, until 1970. Brown paid $10 million for his franchise, which is 400 times the 1960 franchise fee of $25,000.
Damn.
And it is famously stated, "I didn't pay $10 million to be in the NFL, to be in the AFL." Well,
good for you, though, I guess. As 1970 approached, 3 NFL teams, which were the Baltimore Colts, Cleveland Browns, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, agreed to join the 10 AFL teams, which were the Bengals and Miami Dolphins, had joined the original Patriots, Bills, Broncos, Oilers, Chiefs, Jets, Raiders, and Chargers to form the American Football Conference.
oh shit.
The other 13 NFL teams, Falcons, Bears, Cowboys, Lions, Packers, Rams, Vikings, Saints, Giants, Eagles, Cardinals, St. Louis Cardinals, 49ers, and the Washington Redskins became part of the NFC.
Wow. Fantastic. Since 1970, Super Bowl has featured champions of the AFC and NFC. Both are determined each season by the league's playoff tournament. With the creation of the new conferences of equal size, it was deemed necessary that they each be aligned to the 3 divisions of 4 or 5 teams.
It's necessary, but we don't know how many teams.
Prior to 1970, both leagues experimented with new playoff formats in place of traditional format where the division champions face each other in a single championship game, and where one-game playoffs were played to settle ties for the division crown.
It's too many games, though.
Right.
With the addition of a 16th team in 1967, the NFL expanded to 4 divisions and also replaced the possibility of tiebreaker games with an elaborate set of performance-based tiebreakers, which we still see, to determine wins over common opponents, that type of shit.
That's shit.
The AFL waited until its last season to eliminate the possibility of tiebreaker games when it granted the division runners-up the playoff berths and implemented the NFL tie-breaking formula.
Fantastic.
Both playoff formats proved controversial. The 1967 Baltimore Colts tied the Los Angeles Rams for the best record in the NFL at 11-1-2.
Wow.
But because they lost the tiebreaker to the Rams, they missed the playoffs altogether, and as opposed to playing a tiebreaker game as would have occurred in the previous.
No 11-1-2 teams should miss the playoffs. It's crazy.
That's stupid.
Yeah, I don't like
What
that.
was their seeding? What, they have 4 teams or something? So probably all the division winners went.
Right.
That's it.
And these guys are screwed.
Right.
Just like baseball.
Well,
AFL's final year, 1969 Houston Oilers claimed a playoff berth despite a mediocre 6-6-2 record.
I mean, that happens all the time.
Wow. No 500 team have ever qualified for the playoffs in the Professional American Football League ever before. To minimize the chance of any recurrence of such controversies, 1970 playoff format combined elements of both leagues' formats. 4 teams would qualify for the postseason from each conference. Thus, only the best second-place team, as it was originally called, would reach the postseason. Fans and media quickly dubbed this team the Wild Card, and NFL soon made that name official. I don't like that. Wild Card. The playoff format has changed.
I'm guessing the top overall team got the bye.
Right. The playoff format has changed several times since 1970, particularly additional wildcard teams and divisions have been added. But it has always been identical in each conference.
Okay, although the AFC teams quickly decided on a divisional alignment along mostly geographic lines, the 13 NFC owners had trouble deciding which teams would play in which divisions. Many NFC teams were attempting to avoid placement in a division with the Cowboys and or the Vikings because the Vikings were dominating in the 60s or 70s, I mean, and were trying to angle their way in the same division as the Saints, the weakest team in professional football at the time. The 49ers and Rams, both in California, were guaranteed to be in the same division as the only NFC teams rest of the Rocky, obviously.
I mean, you got to be, right?
and still are to this day.
Wow. One early proposal would have...
No, they're not. Wait, the 49ers Rams aren't. Right, I was thinking the Saints.
Right. One early proposal would have put 2 California teams together with 3 Northeast teams.
Whoa, can't do that.
The Giants, the Eagles, and the Redskins. Wow. Reminiscence of the Western Conference's Coastal Division, which had put L.A. and San Francisco together with Baltimore and Atlanta in 1967 to 69 in the AFL. No. It's NFL.
Right.
The final 5 proposals were as follows. Plan 1, the East, which was the Giants, Eagles, the Redskins, the Falcons, and Minnesota. Central, which was Chicago, Green Bay, Detroit. Nolens. What? And the West was...
Well, they didn't have a South.
Right. The West was L.A., San Francisco, Dallas, and St. Louis. Plan 2 would be... The East would be the Giants, Philly, Washington, Minnesota.
Don't know how Minnesota worked their way in there.
They did twice.
Not in the East. Oh, they did, right? What the hell?
Central Division would be Atlanta, Dallas, Nolens, and St. Louis. The West would be L.A., San Francisco, Chicago, Green Bay, and Detroit.
I mean, it's called the Midwest.
It's weird. It should be like mid. The mid.
The mid. You know what?
The mid.
The mid division.
Plan 3 would be the East would be the Giants, Philly, Washington, Dallas, St. Louis. We're getting closer to where we're going to be. St. Louis as well. I said that right. Mm-hmm. The Central would be Chicago, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota. Fantastic. The West would be L.A., San Francisco, Atlanta, and Nolens.
All right.
Plan 4 would be the East would be the Giants, Philly, Washington, St. Louis, and Minnesota. Again, they want them to be in the East for some reason. Central would be Chicago, Green Bay, Detroit, and Atlanta in this time instead of Minnesota from Plan 3. The West would be L.A., San Francisco, Dallas, and Nolens. Plan 5 would be the East would be Giants, Philly, Washington, Detroit, and Minnesota. With the Central being Chicago, Green Bay, Dallas, and St. Louis. The West would be L.A., San Francisco, Atlanta, and Nolens. I kind of like the Plan 5. Plan 5 looks good. Except for Minnesota.
Right.
Except for Minnesota.
And Atlanta could be squeezed into the East if you want to get technical.
Right. Let's do that.
These 5 combinations were written up on slips of paper, sealed into envelopes, and put into a fishbowl. Other sources say a flower vase. Who cares? And the official NFL alignment Plan 3 was pulled out by Roselle's secretary, Thelma Elkcher, which
Thelma.
was East, Giants, Philly, Washington, Dallas, St. Louis. Central, Chicago was Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota. Okay. And the West, L.A., San Francisco, Atlanta, New Orleans.
The black and blue division was created.
Yes, sir. And that's the only one that remains the same to this day.
It is.
Well, besides East, which St. Louis is not there anymore. But
gone, baby.
Right.
Gone.
Okay. Out of the 5 plans considered, the one that was put into effect was the only one in which Minnesota remaining in the Central Division and Dallas playing in the East.
Oh. It's still there today.
Yep. This preserved the Vikings' place with geographical rivals Chicago, Detroit, Green Bay, and their rivals. Oh. And the Cowboys' rivalries with the Skins, Eagles, and Giants. Right. So why not just do that in the first place, idiots? They were already rivals.
Why don't you just do that?
Right.
It also was the only one of the final proposals of the 5 in which there were no warm weather cities in the Central Division.
Good. Shouldn't be.
Right. More controversially, the new alignment put both of the 2 newest NFC franchises, the Saints and the Falcons, from deep south with the Niners and the Rams.
I'm from the South.
Right.
The deep South.
The deep South. The Falcons had already been playing the California teams in NFL Coastal Division, but the Saints were in NFL Capital Division, which was Dallas, Washington, Philly of the Eastern Conference, and now face 2 trips to the West Coast per season. Aww. The Rams were expected to dominate the West, but the Niners won the division in its first 3 seasons before the Rams won the next 7.
Ooh.
The Falcons did not win any until 1980, and the Saints not until 1991.
Well, they did it, though.
Even Archie Manning couldn't do anything with the old Saints.
Archie Manning was not that good at
all. He wasn't? Just the name?
Yeah. Meanwhile, all 3 of the major television networks signed contracts to televise games, thus ensuring the combined league stability. CBS agreed to broadcast all games where an NFC... Wow, CBS, NFC, huh? Where the NFC was on the road.
Right.
NBC agreed to broadcast all games where an AFC team was on the road.
Okay.
ABC agreed to broadcast Monday Night Football, making the NFL the first league to have a regular series of national telecasts in prime time.
Fantastic.
Right.
Let's take a look at the old aftermath of all this. Many of Zoivas believe the NFL got the better end of the bargain.
No,
they both got
They
it.
clearly got the better end.
Oakland Raiders owner L. Davis and New York Jets owner Sonny Werblin resisted the indemnity payments. You bastards. Longtime sports.
Because
right.
There was the 2 AFL teams that had to pay NFL teams. Fuck that.
No more. Longtime sports writer Jerry Maggie of the San Diego Union Tribune, he wrote this. L. Davis, taking over as commissioner, was the strongest thing the AFL ever did. He thought the AFL-NFL merger was a detriment to the AFL. However, though, other observers considered those scenarios far-fetched. The NFL had a richer television contract at this very time. In large part because of the market, in large part because of the market exclusivity in such leading population centers as L.A., Chicago, Detroit, Philly, Washington, Baltimore, Atlanta, and Dallas, Fort Worth area, which were rapidly increasing population and would emerge as media strongholds in the 70s until they didn't. The only one to fall off.
Every single one of them, except for Detroit, are still that.
Baltimore.
On the other hand, the AFL had teams in cities that were not among the nation's leading media markets, such as Miami, which is the only major professional sports franchise in Florida until the addition of the Bucks in 1976. Wow.
Really?
Buffalo, Denver, all of which at the time had no other major league teams,
right?
And Kansas City, which at the time had only a failing baseball team,
right?
That was ultimately relocated, which was the Kansas City Monarchs.
And the basketball team went there for a minute,
but that was after.
Yeah,
that was in the ABA years, 70s, 60s, 70s. Yep. Other than the shared New York and Bay Area markets, the AFL's largest market was Houston, where the Oilers had little following outside Southeast Texas due to the Cowboys' emergence.
Yeah.
Fuck the Cowboys.
Fuck the Cowboys. Most American Football League fans wanted to see an annual interleague championship with the NFL, but many neither expected nor favored a full merger and were thus left disappointed because they wanted the league to continue.
It still is, kind of.
Those feelings were reinforced when American Football League teams won the final 2 AFL-NFL World Championship games.
Sure did. That was Kansas City and Jets, right?
That was 68 and 69
seasons. No, the Jets won a Super Bowl.
Nevertheless, despite the AFL triumphs in Super Bowls 3 and 4...
No, that was the Jets in 3, and I think Kansas City in 4.
The old guard NFL was still widely expected to dominate the merged league over the course of an entire season.
Well, in 1970, these predictions were proven to be more or less correct. Out of 60 regular season games pitting old line NFL teams versus former AFL teams went 19 and 39.
Wow.
2 games, Buffalo at Baltimore in Week 9 and St. Louis at Kansas City in Week 10, ended in ties.
Oh.
Only Oakland managed to post a winning record against old line NFL opposition, going 3-2, which they defeated Washington, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland. But lost to Detroit and San Francisco, though.
Look at that shit.
Before losing to the Colts in the AFC Championship.
Oh.
Nevertheless, out of the 3 NFL teams to join the AFC, only the Colts managed to secure a playoff berth.
Really? Okay. Browns and Steelers both missed out due to a stunning second-half performance by Cincinnati, who overcame a 1-6 start and their 2 old guard division rivals to secure that first-ever NFL playoff berth for a third-year expansion team. Ultimately, however, it was the Colts who were triumphant. They defeated both the Bengals and Raiders to become the first team to represent the AFC in a post-merger Super Bowl, where they defeated the Dallas Cowboys 16-13 in Super Bowl
5.
Franchise's last NFL championship in Baltimore and last overall until 2006.
And Joe Flacco, baby. Even the undefeated Miami Dolphins were slight underdogs to the old guard Washington Redskins in Super Bowl 7, but Miami won 14-7 to cap the only perfect championship season in NFL history, which was 1972.
16-0.
Not until the Super Bowl 8 in 1974 was a former AFL team favored to win, with the Dolphins trouncing the Minnesota Vikings 24-7 to repeat.
Wow.
The Dolphins were also the first former AFL team to win a Super Bowl championship after the merger.
Wow.
Really?
Okay.
What? Wow. Kansas City clearly won. Kansas City won Super Bowl 5.
Yeah, they weren't in the AFC. Kansas City won the NFC.
Oh.
At first.
No.
Yeah.
No.
See, and represent the AFC.
Kansas City was in the AFC. Yeah, so we just seen the proposals for the NFC, and none of them, Kansas City was in none of these. So this is an article lying. So don't listen according to Wikipedia there, guys.
Right.
Wow. Anyways, not until Super Bowl... It took until Super Bowl 11 in 1977 for an original AFL team to win a post-merger NFL championship when the Oakland Raiders did so. And that's my boy Johnny Madden. Boom!
Ooh, there's only one.
Right. Well, he won one as an assistant, I think.
Each of the first 29 games on Monday Night Football featured at least one team from the old guard NFL, with the first nationally televised and primetime game between 2 former AFL teams being Oakland at Houston on the 9th of October in 1972. Eventually, AFC teams caught and passed NFC during the mid to late 70s. But even then, NFL proponents claimed that the 3 NFL teams that joined the AFL to form the AFC were largely the reason. Altogether, these teams played in each of the first 3 AFC Championship games and in 8 of the first 10 games, out of which they won 5.
All right. Well, however, the Colts and Browns were respectable playoff contenders during this period. It was the Steelers who dominated the league, winning 4 Super Bowls in 6 years through 74-79.
TB12.
From the perspective of AFL proponents, this was not a continuation of old NFL dominance. Before the merger, the Steelers had been perennially close to or in last place in the NFL since their foundation in 1933, including a 1-13 record in 1969, which tied with the Chicago Bears for the worst record in the NFL. With only 8 winning seasons and just 1 playoff appearance in 1947, where they were shut out at the time.
Wow.
I don't know why it has to do with anything.
Well, $3 million relocation fee that Steelers received for joining the AFC after the merger, along with the new stadium and a winning coin flip tiebreaker against the Bears for the number 1 pick in 1970 NFL draft, which ended up being future Hall of Fame quarterback Terry Bradshaw.
Hey, there you go.
Wow. This helped them rebuild into a team that could compete with the other old NFL teams from years to come. The merger paved the way for a new era of prosperity for the NFL. While a number of rival major professional football leagues have commenced play since 1970, including the XFL, the WFL, the USFL, the UFL, and while the CFL once experimented with the United States-based teams, none of these ventures came close to being a serious challenge to the NFL.
Well, the aforementioned U.S. leagues folded outright after 1, 2, 3, and 4 seasons, respectively, while the CFL reverted to being an all-Canadian league after 3 seasons. While the Buccaneers joined the AFC in 76, the Seahawks joined the NFC.
Oh, okay.
Buccaneers were in the AFC, huh?
Yeah.
The 76 expansion teams switched conference before their second season in the league, becoming the first NFL teams to change conferences after the merger.
Oh.
Seahawks returned to the NFC in 2002 upon the league's realignment that year.
Really?
Because they went from the Central Division to, well, not the Seahawks, but it was the Central Division before it became the North.
Wow. 4 more teams that were not specified in the merger agreement would be established between 1995 and 2002.
Well, how the hell are you supposed to specify them 30 years in advance?
You got the old Carolina Panthers, Jacksonville Jaguars were awarded franchise in 1993, began playing NFC and AFC respectively in 95. Their establishment allowed the league to have divisions of equal sizes, which is 6 divisions of 5 teams, for the first time since the Moija.
Good for them.
Yeah, the old Baltimore Ravens starting to play in 1996 as a result of the controversy stemming from Art Modell's attempt to relocate the Browns to Baltimore.
Not attempt.
Subsequent legal action saw a unique compromise in which he was only allowed to take the players, coaches, and front office staff to Baltimore. Even then, not all of them made the move. And then the Browns' team colors, uniforms, and history will remain in Cleveland to be inherited by the resurrected Browns franchise, later to be named.
As a result, although it was effectively a continuation of the football organization that operated in Cleveland until 95, Modell's Baltimore team is reckoned to be an expansion franchise that commenced play in 1996.
Right.
Meanwhile, the club in Cleveland, although it was effectively a brand new football organization stocked by an expansion draft, is recognized to be a continuation of the original.
Right.
The agreement with the NFL was contingent on finding a new owner and the completion of a new stadium in Cleveland. As a result, the Browns were officially reckoned to have suspended operations for 3 years, and the number of active NFL teams did not increase to 31 until the Browns came back in 1999.
Right. Yes. Well, and they were shitty ever since.
Right.
Prior to the Browns
even before then.
Right. Prior to the Browns' reactivation, the NFL briefly considered realigning the AFC into 4 divisions of 4 teams, each while leaving the NFC alignment unchanged. Due in large part to difficulties in an uneven number of divisions would have calls for scheduling interconference games. The proposed AFC realignment was shelved. As a result, the Browns were placed back in AFC Central, which expanded to 6 teams as a result.
Well, the Houston Texans joined in 2002 after Houston was left without the NFL for 5 years following the Oilers moved to Nashville,
right,
where they eventually became Tennessee. The Texans' establishment made feasible the realignment of both conferences into 4 divisions of 4 teams, which allows every team to play every other team at least twice over an 8-year span.
All right.
Every 4 years.
Right.
Once at home, once on the road. Houston was once again placed in the AFC to make room for the Texans. Seahawks agreed to return to the NFC.
Oh, look at that shit.
Because they were doing nothing in the AFC.
Right. In total, out of the first 47 AFC championship games, 16 have featured 2 former AFL teams, and 45 have featured at least 1 former AFL team. The only exceptions being the 1995 championship game between the Steelers and the Colts, the 2008 game between the Steelers and the Ravens. Out of the first 46 post-merger Super Bowls, former AFL teams have won 12, lost 21, did not qualify for the remaining 13. The latter 13 games have all involved one of the 3 old guard organizations that joined the AFC in 1970, which are the Steelers playing 8, the Colts in 3, 1 representing Baltimore and 2 representing Indianapolis. And then you got the old Ravens.
I don't see how the Ravens would be an old guard. I guess they're a continuation from the Browns, but
they can't be.
Somewhat ironically, the two AFL teams that won Super Bowls prior to the merger, who was the Jets and the Chiefs, were also the last two former AFL teams that had never played in a post-merger championship game.
Oh.
Chiefs broke that, obviously, in 2020 when they appeared in and since won 2 championships.
Right.
For extent, NFL teams have yet to reach the Super Bowl at all, including 2 pre-merger NFL franchises, the Browns and the Lions, and 2 post-merger expansion teams, the Jags and Texans.
Oh.
Houston Oilers never reached a postseason post-merger championship game prior to relocating to Tennessee, thus making Houston the only AFL city that has yet to send a team to the Super Bowl.
Oh,
wow, really?
Wow. In spite of Rozell's promise that there would be no relocations involving teams in existence at that time of merger, by the end of a 10-year as commissioner in 1989, 3 franchises had moved to a different market from where they were based in 1970.
You can't predict what's going to happen in 20 years.
Right. Although the league did take legal actions in an unsuccessful attempt to prevent the first such move.
And who did that?
The Raiders.
Who did that? Al Davis. He's like, fuck you guys. I'm moving my team or else.
As of 2021, 6 NFL franchises, the Raiders, Colts, Cardinals, Rams, Oilers, Titans, and the Chargers haven't been involved in post-merger relocations, while an additional franchise, the Browns, temporarily suspended operations as alternative to relocation.
And it's funny, the Raiders moved twice.
Oakland,
and the Chargers
LA.
moved twice. And the Rams moved twice.
Yeah.
Wow.
St. Louis.
Of the 6 teams that have relocated since the merger, 2, which are the Raiders and Rams, have returned to the cities they played in at the time of the merger, while the other teams only moved once.
Right.
Okay, so fucking make me look like a liar. However, the Chargers, who had moved to San Diego in 61 before the merger, returned to Los Angeles in 17, making them the only team to go through a relocation as a member of both leagues.
Oh.
Also, the Raiders moved a 3rd time, leaving Oakland once more, this time for LV in 2020.
Well, that's fantastic.
All right.
Broken down by where they played in 1969 1970. Of the 10 teams that competed in the AFL in 1969, 7 have been continuously based in their 1969 market. 1, the Raiders, returned to their original city after moving to a different city post-merger. 1, the Oilers, no longer plays in their original city. And 1, the Chargers, has returned to its original AFL city after relocation that took place before the merger. However, the Raiders moved a 3rd time, leaving
Yes, we know.
for Vegas.
Of the 13 teams that formed the NFC in 1970, 11 have been continuously based in their 69 market. The Rams clearly went back to L.A. The Cardinals no longer play in the city it was based, which was St. Louis. St. Louis.
Right.
Of the 3 1969 NFL teams that joined the AFC in 1970, the Steelers has been continuously based in its 1969 market. The Browns played in its original city, but we already know what happened there. The Rams returned from St. Louis and Los Angeles, ended an interval lasting 21 years in which there was no NFL team in Los Angeles.
Wow. 21 years.
Right. The longest such period involving any NFL or city of the post-merger era, and resulted in St. Louis replacing Los Angeles as the only 1969 NFL city without a current NFL team.
Wow.
The NFL has not simultaneously fielded teams in all 16 of its 1969 markets since the Colts relocated to Indianapolis after the 83 season. It had fielded teams in all 10 1969 AFL cities from the 2002 season when the Texans joined the league until the conclusion of the 16 season when the Chargers returned to L.A., leaving San Diego without a team.
Wow. Right. Neither Portland nor Memphis. These were the cities that were due to receive AFL franchises via relocation in the rejected 1964 merger proposal. They have not received an NFL franchise.
Why would they?
Memphis, in particular, has made repeated bids for an NFL team, including the Memphis Hound Dogs and the Memphis Grizzlies. But they have failed. Memphis would later serve as a temporary home to Tennessee Oilers for the 1997 season, following their departure from Houston. The agreement was originally slated to last for 2 seasons, but lackluster fan support in Memphis caused the arrangement.
Yeah, and then they went to Nashville.
Like, and you guys want a freaking team here? You can't even get guys here.
Proliferation of new stadiums. Let's see. A league rule passed as a result. The merger required all NFL teams to use stadiums that we said 50,000 or more.
Right.
At the time, several teams had stadiums that were not up to that standard. Most either built a new stadium by 71, or in this case of Chicago, moved to an existing stadium in the metro area that met the requirement.
No.
The Buffalo Bills situation would prove to be a pattern for later teams. Buffalo interests were very slow to come to an agreement on a new stadium, and it was only after Bills owner Ralph Wilson began arranging for a move to Seattle.
Wow.
A tactic that would later be used by many other teams in their quest for new stadiums. So give us a stadium or we're leaving.
All right, we're out.
That Western New York finally agreed to build Rich Stadium, which opened in 1973.
Oh. Super Bowl has been used as an incentive by the league to convince local governments, businesses, and voters to support the construction, seat licenses, and taxes associated with new or renovated stadiums. Therefore, the league continues to award Super Bowls to cities that have built new stadiums for existing franchises. Though all outdoor Super Bowls continue to be played in warmer climates, with the exception of Super Bowl 48, played in the new Meadowlands Stadium. Yeah, that was terrible.
Only 8 Super Bowls since 83 have been played in stadiums used by 3 of these expansion teams. 5 in Tampa Bay, 1 in Jacksonville, and 2 in Houston. In some cases, cities have been selected as provisional Super Bowl sites with the construction or renovation of a suitable facility as a major requirement for hosting the actual game.
Right.
In the past, New York City and San Francisco each have received provisional site awards. In both cities, the league moved the game to a different site when public funding initiatives failed.
Oh, wow. The most provisional site award went to Kansas City for a Super Bowl to be played 2015 in Arrowhead. But Kansas City withdrew the request because the funding for a new roof failed in April of 2006. The Chiefs, Browns, Bengals, Broncos, Texans, Steelers, Eagles, Bears, Tampa Bay, Seattle, Detroit, Arizona, Indianapolis Colts, and Minnesota Vikings are all teams who have received a significant amount of public financing to either construct or upgrade stadiums which they currently play. Ford Field's new.
Yeah.
Right.
They hosted a Super Bowl. They did. The state of Louisiana has been making cash payouts to the New Orleans Saints since 2001 in order to keep the team from moving. Wow. The state received over $185 million from the Federal Emergency Management Agency and other sources to repair and renovate the Superdome following Hurricane Katrina. Louisiana then began a 5-year, $320 million renovation project for the stadium in 2006. Another $450 million renovation can begin in 2020 to upgrade the facility for the Super Bowl in February of 2025. In addition, St. Louis and Baltimore also publicly financed stadiums for the purpose of luring the former Los Angeles Rams and the first incarnation of the Cleveland Browns.
Right. Cool.
Damn, so they wanted... All right, St. Louis tried.
All right.
But they didn't.
Baseball, huh? The Rams returned
There's no reading about baseball.
Right. Rams returned to LA in 2016 following the 2015 season and moved into a new stadium in Inglewood. 2020 alongside the Chargers, who also relocated from San Diego in 2017. The Raiders would move from Oakland to Las Vegas. Yes. Entrepreneurs interested in other sports in North America would follow the AFL's example and competing with the established major leagues.
Well, in baseball in 1959, the Continental League was proposed by William Shea as a third major league for baseball.
Shea Stadium? Yeah, it's because Shea Stadium, that was Mets. Right? Yeah.
He wanted a third major league for baseball scheduled to begin playing in the 1961 season. Unlike predecessor competitors such as the Players League and the Federal League, it sought membership within organized baseball's existing organization and acceptance within Major League Baseball, as any attempt at outsider leagues could be squashed as per a 1922 Supreme Court case declaring MLB exempt from federal antitrust laws. What?
Oh.
Well, I mean, baseball was like a cash cow.
Right.
The league disbanded in 1960 without playing a single game, as the other two leagues acquiesced too many of the owners' demands. By granting franchises within the two existing leagues. They're like, you know what? You want to have these franchises? We'll give them in our league. In order to stop the new league, each league allowed that they would be adding 2 teams each. Okay. 3 of which ended up in the prospective CL cities. What is that? The Continental League. Minneapolis, St. Paul, Houston, and New York City. So all proposed, which was the Mets,
the Twins, and the Colt 45s.
Right. All proposed CL cities, except Buffalo, would later be granted MLB team. Damn, Buffalo was about to get a major league team.
Yeah, they were about to.
Damn.
Let's take a look at basketball. In 1967, American Basketball Association was formed with the explicit intent of merging.
See, that's what I'm saying. They did it on purpose.
Right, to merge with the NBA. In 1976, 4 of the 6 remaining teams of the NBA, the Denver Nuggets, Indiana Pacers, New York Nets, and the San Antonio Spurs, they merged into the NBA.
Well, until last year, only 2 of those, or San Antonio was the only one to win a championship.
Yeah, they all went to a championship, though.
Well, I'm saying Denver won one
right?
in the ABA. I think the Pacers might have got one.
Maybe one,
but San Antonio is the only one to win a NBA championship until the Nuggets last year.
Right. All the teams have remained in the same media market since entering the NBA. 1975-1976, the ABA proposed a championship game between the leagues at the end of the season, much like the NFL AFL. But NBA turned each offer down. Today, except for Virginia, Kentucky, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and any temporary locations ABA teams played in, including teams that were regional teams. All former ABA cities now have NBA teams. Well, that's cool. Besides Virginia, Kentucky, Pittsburgh, and St. Louis.
And St. Louis. Ice hockey. In 1972, the World Hockey Association formed to compete with the NHL. Two entities merged in 1979 with 4 of the 6 remaining teams, the Oilers, Whalers, Nordiques, and the original Jets, joining the NHL. However, only one of these former WHA teams, which is the Oilers, is still in its original market.
Yep.
The Nordiques became the Avalanche, Jets became the Coyotes, and the Whalers became the Hurricanes.
Sure did.
NHL eventually returned to Winnipeg with the new Jets when the Atlanta Trashers became the current incarnation of the Winnipeg Jets.
Atlanta Thrashers.
Well, Atlanta was the Flames.
Yeah.
Before they went to Calgary.
Yep. Atlanta Flames.
Yeah.
It's true.
And there goes. That is the story of the AFL NFL merger, my guys.
Fantastic. That shit was tough.
That wasn't bad. Only an hour long. I'm surprised at that. Yeah. All right. We're not gonna spin a wheel.
Oh,
because
don't work.
I think we'll
figure something out.
We'll continue on, maybe anniversaries, like we said, or something relevant or something that's going on. But till then, like I said at the beginning of the episode, YouTube at Bang Dang Network, give us a subscription. Spotify, Apple, give us a review. And we'll be back for, well, if you're listening on the Bang Dang Network, Outlaws and Gunslingers, Lee and Corey on the Case, Battles of the American Civil War, plus much, much more, and others.
Monday Night Watch Along.
But more importantly, we'll be back next week for another episode of According to Wikipedia.
Yes.
The month of Michigan this week.
Bang Dang.